The quality of the channeling is the number one thing is how are you internally? How clear are you? How much work are you doing on yourself? Because then if you don't have a lot of trauma and things pulling you away left and right, you can just become a clear vessel for the energy. And so if you want to be a good channeler, that is the number one thing, is working on yourself.
Hi, I'm Momita, and welcome to the Ascension Program podcast. And today we are going to talk to Venu Solsona. Venu is the visionary founder of the website Oracle, which is the world's first digital platform dedicated to connecting individuals with carefully vetted spiritual practitioners. Her entry into the spiritual wellness space was catalyzed by a deeply personal tragedy, the sudden loss of her older brother in a microlight accident in 2009, which led to a profound spiritual awakening for her. Venu's mission with Oracle is to create a high quality marketplace that empowers spiritual practitioners to transform their passions into a thriving careers while providing clients with confidence that they are receiving the guidance from a trusted professionals. So let's welcome Venu. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Mamita. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. So, tell me a little bit about your pivotal moment that inspired you to create Oracle.
I would say that there were two moments. The first one was, as you mentioned, the passing of my brother in 2009. Of course, at the time, I had no idea that that would lead me to it, but that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. Prior to that, I hadn't thought much about spirituality. My life was fine. I was going about it without being too conscious of who I was or why I was here. But of course, when that happened for me, it was very shocking. And I just wanted to find out what happens after death and so on. So I can talk about that experience maybe later, but that got me onto the spiritual path. And it got me onto meditation and just learning a lot over the last, however many years. Well, actually, in 2020, that was the other moment. It had been 11 years since my brother's passing, so I had done a lot of work on myself and I was much more ahead in my spiritual journey. And I was in meditation one day, and the idea to do this platform came to me as kind of a download. I was sitting at night and I had put out the intention to start something that would be I wanted to kind of impact the world, not just a small area. I wanted to use all my gifts, and so I kind of had put it out to the universe, if you will. But when I got this idea, I just felt very excited about it. And the name came to me. I didn't really know what Oracle meant. Of course, we spell it differently. But the logo, what you see on the homepage, that circle that turns, that flew towards me. And I wrote it all down, with my eyes closed. I just kind of started typing. And that was 2020. And so, I've been sort of, well, a lot of things had to happen until, getting to where we are today. But those were the two sort of main moments in my life that resulted in Oracle.
Thank you for sharing that. That was that gives me some idea what brought us here. So, how do you think or how do you see your platform contributing to the collective spiritual ascension of humanity?
Mm. That's a great question because it's like really my most heartfelt wish that this platform really does contribute to the ascension of humanity. That's really why I'm doing it. I want us, all of us, all human beings, and really all beings on earth to have a better world. I want there to be less war, more love, more peace, more of those beautiful things. And of course, I want it for myself and my life, but I want it for the world. I really want a better world. And so, in my own journey, I have found that the way to achieve that is to start with myself, because I've seen my own change as I understood myself more and more, and as my internal landscape started to change, I mean, I really and genuinely saw everything change around me. Not that my life's perfect, of course there's more to achieve, and I want more, and more experience and more love, more joy, and all of that, but I'm on a journey, and I've seen how really working on myself is kind of the answer. And so I feel like if I can help bring this knowledge to more people through practitioners that love what they do, who are talented at what they do, and that I can use my skills, which are more business background, to kind of help the industry. I mean, I really can't think of nothing better to do. So I feel like it's very important. I always say that my wish is for Oracle to be like an important piece of the puzzle in creating a new earth for all of us. And I'm super committed to that. I mean, I'm not doing it for anybody else except for myself. It's my purpose, it's my passion, and that really fuels me every single day. I'm so excited to work on this company, and I just see the potential. And my only job, I feel like, is to remain very aligned and very heart centered as I go through this journey.
Thank you for sharing that. I really like the fact that you mentioned about working on ourselves. I think, ironically, in my experience in spirituality, that is something really rare to come by. I've seen people talk about a lot of spiritual concepts. People love channeling, people love consulting psychic mediums. And yet, when it comes to the inner work, I see a huge hesitation. It's like as if that's not part of the spiritual growth, as if we are just supposed to just anchor to the metaphysical information without grounding it in ourselves. So can you give us some example? And I think this is my personal motivation because I keep telling my clients and my audience to work on themselves. So I just wanted to shift a gear a little bit towards that. That what motivates you to work on yourself? Like, what are the outcomes you have seen as you were talking about things changing around you? Can you give some examples? What is that you noticed when you started working on yourself versus when you didn't?
Mm. Yeah, thanks so much. It's so funny because that's kind of the cracks of the whole thing. And it's it's interesting that you mentioned that, yes, a lot of people talk about it, but I don't know how many people do it. I have personally noticed that there's a lot of talk out there everywhere in terms of, yes, work on yourself. It all starts on the inside. It is all pointing inside. And the thing is that I feel that as human beings, we get that. We understand it logically. Like the theory is perfect, like makes perfect sense. Yes, I agree with that statement. We all agree with it. And we don't actually need any more information around that. There's enough books out there. Like there's not another book gonna come out that it's like, oh my gosh, this is a new concept. Like they're not new concepts. So the theory is out there, it's understood, and people go, yes, I agree. Now, there's a mismatch between the theory and then the actual practice, because you put down the book that you think is brilliant, and then you turn around and you shout at your partner, your kids, you don't go to sleep, you don't meditate, you certainly don't exercise, you eat sugar all day, and you are stressed out of your mind, and then you read the book and you're like, yes, it all starts inside. It's amazing. And then you go, you do the same thing, the next day. And so I'm like, okay, let's stop reading, let's stop watching documentaries. It's all, oh, you can keep doing it but above anything else, you've got to do the work. And what's so funny is like doing the work is actually not as hard as we make it out to be, because it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, now I need to wake up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym and eat like veggies all day and like meditate. Like, it's not. It's like, it's actually quite pleasant to take care of yourself when you start doing it. The thing is, we need to prioritize it. Like, absolutely prioritize. If my practitioners saying, if we're all saying, if my company is saying, work on yourself, like, I need to be number one, right? Like I have to, otherwise I'm a hypocrite. So that's my mission. Like I'm working on myself, and I can give you lots of examples of the things that I do, and the things that I've seen around me, because sometimes it's like magic. I'm like, I can't believe it. The more aligned I am, the more I get out, and it's like things happen, in like magical ways. And so if anybody listening is like, "Ah, yeah, I get it," like I urge you to actually start doing whatever it is that you know that you can do. Don't kill yourself, don't put these expectations on yourself that you're going to fail at them. But in fact, I started something this year. It's called I Commit, and I will maybe ask your clients to think about this. If you can commit to one act of self-care, okay, self-care for 1 month. Now, there's three rules. The first rule, it has to be good for you, and it has to be good for your soul. Like, what's good for you. I mean, sleeping 8 hours a day is good for you, right? I mean, meditating X minutes is good for you. So, okay, so you choose one thing that's good for you, and it doesn't have to be massive. It could be something very, very small, but you do it every day. Okay, that's very important. Every day. I usually, or at least 5 days a week. If you have a Monday to Friday routine that's different to your weekend, I'll spare you the weekend if you have to. And it has to be a new thing, something that you don't do, right? So I'm doing that. I did it in Jan. I did one thing, and in Feb I'm doing another thing, and it starts there. It's about getting used to, because here's what happens when you do it. You feel good, like, because you're now doing something for yourself, and you're like, oh, I mean, like, that is good. And because you've committed now and you're doing it, you realize, oh, this really feels good, and you will start seeing changes like around, everywhere. So
So what
um
did you start in Jan and what are you doing in
So
Feb?
in Jan, what I did in Jan, so I've been doing this for a while now. So since last year, I've been doing a lot of stuff, and I have like this amazing morning routine, which has changed my life. Like, it's unbelievable. But in January specifically, I actually stepped on grass every day, because I know the benefits of spending time on grass, and I don't do that. Like, I have to go somewhere to go to grass. So I started doing that, and it was also, in January I gave myself an easy one, because I didn't put time limits. I didn't say 5 minutes, half an hour. I just said, just go every day. And some days was amazing, and I was sitting there meditating. Yeah, so I discovered a lot of things through this process. Now I do in Feb, I'm doing a different kind of meditation. It's 20 minutes of, anyway, a very visual. I focus on something that I want in my life, and I really put myself there physically, as if I almost have it, so that I get so excited about this thing for 20 minutes, and I try and hold that vibration for those 20 minutes. But whatever it is, my point is that I think it's time for human beings to start walking the talk. I think we need to start put our bigger panties on now, and go, okay, now, like, I actually need to commit to this thing. I say it's good for me. I tell other people do it. Like, I'm even not even going to tell anybody, but I'm just going to do it myself. And this is I think how we're going to change the world, right? Like, because
The change
besides,
starts within us.
it really does, because your world does start changing around you. It's like I said, it's kind of like magic. Yeah.
That is true. I could just you opened a whole new area of discussion. Like I could go on and on and on. For me, I think what I have observed in my audience in general is like what you mentioned are, I think it's not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
Um, what I usually prefer, because maybe because I am a coach and I am rigorous in my personal development, so I usually ask them that if you really want to be on the spiritual path, the fastest way to raise your vibration is to do the inner work, like changing your perspective, releasing your trauma, healing your emotions. And that is, oh my God, that is, I think, the biggest taboo, unspoken taboo that is there in spirituality. Nobody wants to do it. Oh, I don't want to consider, I don't have trauma. Oh,
Mm,
really?
mm,
So it's like, no, I don't want to focus on the negative. Well,
mm,
that is there in your subconscious. That is what is creating your reality. If you really understand the law of attraction or any kind of law or the spirituality of metaphysics, you are not creating your reality in consciousness. It's mostly unconscious. So
mm.
all these negative things that you're avoiding is your unconscious and creating the reality. If you don't work on it, it will continue creating it. So what's this point of doing any kind of spiritual work anyway?
Yeah.
So what I keep telling my audience who want to channel the spirit or do any kind of spiritual work is that your quality of work will be reflected with the quality of inner work you do. Because the more you change your belief system, the better the information is going to be. There will be less filtering, there will be less lack of flow, there will be smooth new information and good quality information. Otherwise, what I've noticed is many channelers, their belief system gets mingled up when they are channeling. So they are like
Mm.
50% time channeling and 50% time their own limiting beliefs coming through the channeling. And because I'm an experienced channeler, it's very easy for me to detect and discern, but regular people will not be able to make the difference. And you're like leaving with a low vibration. It's like, okay, some things
Yeah.
their channeler says really makes me feel good, but some of the things like really bring me down. It's because the channeler's belief system are interfering because the channeler probably doesn't do the work on themselves. So, from
Yeah.
your perspective, I'm just moving to the next question. What differentiates authentic channelers from those who might not be fully aligned based on your experience?
I could have said what you just said. Like I could that could have come out of my mouth. So I mean, all I can say is like I completely agree. I do review a lot of channelers. It is a little bit hard sometimes when we reject people, which we do often, and we and I kind of want to say, but without sounding arrogant, or anything, because nobody's better than anybody else, but to say, look, you need to work on yourself. I can see it. I can see it. It's so easy for me to, people go, oh, how do what makes you qualified to, to vet somebody? It's just like anything, experience makes perfect. You start feeling it. And yes, the quality of the channeling is the number one thing is how are you internally? How clear are you? How much work are you doing on yourself? Because then if you don't have a lot of trauma and things pulling you away left and right, you can just become a clear vessel for the energy. And so if you want to be a good channeler, that is the number one thing is working on yourself. When you're in a good space, you can allow it. Imagine if you're now worried about work, your kids, or something, your mind's constantly there, something's not right. It's very difficult to put that aside, although people train themselves also to do that, to put that aside so that that doesn't bother you while you're channeling. But it's hard. And so often it does. And so the best thing people can do is just work on themselves. And I can also see it very quickly. I don't know if that was a question, but
Yeah, that
but
was actually. I wanted to
yeah,
hear
okay.
anything else that you have noticed that makes you feel that it affects the quality of the spiritual information that's coming through, be it a channeler or a psychic medium or any kind of spiritual work.
Mhm. Look, I mean, there are some people that are very committed to this work. And so they will do different courses. They will get healings themselves. They will learn new things. So, of course, if you're committed to it and if you really love it, then you will, do those. So, besides doing your own inner work, you can just find out more about the metaphysical world, if you will. Um, yeah, then there's all kinds, really. I mean, people come start channeling or start doing spiritual work from like all different reasons. And then it really depends. Some people are very much in tune. Some people are like absolute empaths and they just pick up a lot of stuff. Some people have to work at it, and they have to train themselves. So, yeah, I think besides that, then it's just everybody's a little bit different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, since you have many channelers on your platform, so my next question is, have you noticed any trends in the type of guidance people are usually seeking from uh, your spiritual folks who are
Mm,
on the platform? Any pattern that you're observing?
mm. Well, people usually do want a quick pill, right? A quick fix, tell me what to do. And with channeling in particular, this it's not really a psychic reading, it's more an energetic reading. And so just be prepared that the answer that will come back will again be pointing inside and about those limiting beliefs and why is it that we're feeling a certain way towards something and what can we do about that. So sometimes people kind of get an answer that they're not expecting because they just want to sit back, not take responsibility and go, okay, what must I do, must I do this or must I do that? And it's always deeper, but I find that even though they sometimes don't get the answer that they're expecting, they actually get more because I always say one thing is giving somebody a fish, another thing is teaching them how to fish. And so I compare them that way. This is teaching people how to fish. Like you have the answers within you. You have the solutions within you. We're trying to teach you that. That's a lot more powerful than what should you do tomorrow. It's like what should you do always? And but of course, everybody is different. So even though there are some fundamental truths, universal truths, then everybody's got their own story. They've got their past lives, they've got their ancestral lineage. And so um, the trend, if you ask about that, I think a lot of people are looking at their ancestors and what did mom pass down onto me and what did her mom and her dad pass down onto me, and starting to understand that we have an ancestral lineage. I mean, I am the way I am because I was raised the way I was raised. And I was raised the way I was raised because my mom and my dad were raised the way they were raised, and so on. And so actually it's quite wide, you know, it's a whole society that makes us. And so I think that I've seen a lot of that lately is understanding that, which is great. You know, it's also we're I think we are all become a little bit more empathetic, because if we really truly understand that you're always trying to make the best decision. In fact, you've always, for the most part, done your best. And if I could just put myself in your shoes and understand that, hey, your decision is based on so many things, you know what I mean? Not this thing that I'm thinking about. Your decision is, in fact, it's a universe that's behind that. And if I can understand that, okay, that's why I don't get so, you know, upset about, you know, the fact that it's not exactly how I wanted it. And so I think empathy is another thing that we're starting to understand, and yeah, and you know, use to our advantage, I suppose, so we don't get so upset.
So what I'm hearing is like mostly the people who are seeking guidance on Oracle are more interested in knowing their past to understand where they are and having more empathy about their parents and ancestors, where
Yeah,
people kind of have a tendency to blame shift, like, oh, I'm here because of what you did, or
yeah,
I'm just carrying my trauma over. So, but I think people are starting to take responsibility, and I think the start of
yeah,
inner work is the starting point of that. Like, all right, I mean, my
mm,
ancestors might have done that, their ancestors might have done that, but now the healing begins with me,
yeah,
irrespective of what they have done in the past. So
yes.
I will move on to the next question. So I think this is something you mentioned on on your website as well. This was part of your mission that when channelers are starting out, so especially when they are starting out, you had mentioned that not many people can make a living out of channeling alone. So I wanted to ask about the reality of the struggles that most channelers face when they are starting out. And what advice would you give for channelers who are struggling to attract clients despite their gifts?
Yes, yes. So, firstly, I'd like to explain that channelers and spiritual practitioners tend to do this work because they are heart people. You know, you get head people and you get heart people. So, they're generally heart people. And when it comes to business, there's a lot of head space there. You need to do a lot of things. You need to know a lot of things. You need to be analytical. You need to follow some business rules. And unfortunately, we can't be brilliant at everything. And so generally, this is a generalization, but generally, the better you are at your spiritual practice, probably the worse you are at running a business, you know? And so, if you look out there, it doesn't take long for you to just Google and find a couple of spiritual websites. They're not the best. Let's be honest. You know, way too much writing, colors are off, it looks old, it looks homemade, it doesn't work, links don't work. It's a bit of a disaster, but it's understandable. And so, um, firstly, I would say you can't be great at it all. So don't blame yourself and don't like feel bad because you don't have clients, because there's a business aspect to what you're doing, right? Um, and to be honest, this is exactly why Oracle exists. Like, I've got a business background and I see business like simpler than other people. I guess for me, the answers are just clearer. And I'd like to use my gifts and my experience to help spiritual practitioners so that they don't have to worry about this, right? So that's really what we're doing here. But some advice for people that are starting out would be, to really keep things very simple. If you're going to do a website, honestly, like less is more. Rather start with a template from, I usually recommend GoDaddy because it's so easy. You go to godaddy.com and you just create a new website. You use a very simple template because people just want to know about you. So there's got to be an about you page with a photo or a video. A video would be great. A little bit of your story. Try and be a bit vulnerable, and because there's always something that prompted you to get to where you are. So just pour your heart out. People will connect with that. So about you, and then about your service. What do you offer? You offer a channeling session. There you can get information. Look, these days everything's done through Chat GPT. So use it. It's there. It's free.
Yeah,
Ask
ChatGPT is
GPT
really
to
good
help
at
you.
creating sales
Yeah.
pages and all that. Like I use
Yeah.
ChatGPT very heavily.
It's great. It's great. So then you write about what you offer, and then like one or two more pages, like simple. Make it easy for people to book with you, and then whatever you put out into the world, whether it's social media or any sort of marketing, I would say be authentic. Like people are attracted to authenticity, and they can smell BS a mile away. So it's just not going to work, especially in the spiritual crowd. It's just you can't sell something, you know what I mean? You either so pour your heart out, be authentic, and I think that's the best advice that I can give to somebody
I
starting out.
actually really loved how you broke it down into, simple, manageable steps that they can take. And the first things that people usually need to do. Like, I come from a business background to have an MBA. I was in the corporate for 14 years. I was in product management. I know how to attract customers. So I didn't realize how much that my knowledge has actually been used in creating and selling the stuff that I'm doing. So I remember talking to one of the channelers who does not wish to be mentioned. He's like a good one, like a very popular one. So I remember taking his coaching. I was asking him when I'm starting out about how do I get clients, and he was like, well, what are you doing? Like, are you making anything? I was like, yeah, I'm making anything. I want to grow it more. And he was like, oh, wow, you just said you started this year and you're already making money. That is inspiring. I was like, okay. I didn't know that people don't make money from year one. So
Yeah.
I did not
Oh,
know
yeah.
the gift that I had until he made that comment. I was like, oh, so there are people who don't make anything. So, and you mentioned about authenticity, and I saw how many times it came up. So I wanted to ask you, like personally, uh, what about authenticity? Like, what makes you want to be more authentic? Like, what is your motivation? Because these days I find authenticity to be very rare. Most people are putting up a show. They're trying to, share that, oh, I have done this, I have so many achievements, blah, blah. So instead of being showing the vulnerable side, so, like from your point of view, what is the benefit of being authentic? I think one thing you already mentioned about people can smell BS, and that is especially true in spiritual communities because most people are sensitive and psychic. They can pick up unlike regular folks. What other reasons draws you to authenticity?
There are so many. It's so funny. Well, firstly, not an obvious one, but it's easier. It's just easier for myself to be authentic if you think about it. I don't have to remember to say anything. I don't have to, even coming on the podcast. I don't prepare for it. But what am I going to prepare for? Because that means I'm going to say something that wouldn't naturally come out of my mouth. So it's easier. It really is easier. So you just have to like yourself as well, because if you don't and you're trying to be somebody you're not, and then it's a bit harder. But besides that, I do think that there is a large group of people that are putting up a front and pretending to be something they're not with all the social media out there. But I also think that there's a large group of people, especially in the spiritual community, that understand the concept that we have to be authentic, we have to be ourselves. And so I think there's also a movement towards that side as well. And I have to like quickly mention, I had an experience in 2 years ago, yeah, 2022 or 3 years ago now. I actually went to Antarctica. It was super cool. We went to the 150 entrepreneurs and artists. I was kind of an outsider, but I got invited. And for me, it was really incredible to see because these people, they were successful because they were authentic. They were mostly artists, right? I was with a girl sharing a room that did something very unique. I won't go into it, but so, so unique. Like, no, she had been with Justin Bieber and Haley like the week before, but it was she was just being herself. She said, well, I like these things, and I created a business out of it. And it was interesting because nobody in the world did it. She combined poetry with food and whatever else, right? And everybody there was like themselves. And I thought, okay, well, what is my like thing? You know what I mean? Like, what am I good at? and and in fact, I even started thinking, how do I actually like to dress? Because I dress this way, like, do I actually like what I'm wearing? And I started to find my voice. At 47 years old, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. It's so funny. But I'm like, what makes me me? What am I good at? And even to this day, I go like, I try and hone in more on like my authenticity. For example, I was thinking about it this morning while I was swimming. I was thinking about this, and I was like, I really want to walk the talk. I want to talk about this, like walking the talk about maybe that's my thing. I don't, but I think it's super important, the authenticity thing, because everybody on earth, every single human being is unique. You have your story, you've got your background, and when you hone into the things that you love and the things that you're good at, you give to the world a gift that only you can give. And that is the same for everyone. So if we could all, and that's why meditation is so good, if we could all just listen a little bit to ourselves and go, okay, I love this and I love that, and I'm good at this and I'm good at that. Like, how could I combine all of these things to be authentically me? And people will gravitate to that because really, even if they don't consciously realize it, like energetically, they will go, yes, something inside of them will say, yes, this person's being true. And they speak to me, they speak to my heart. I get what they're saying. And so there's so many benefits to being authentic. There's so many. My boyfriend showed me actually an Instagram of this very weird guy from England with this weird hair, and he wears his weird clothes, but he's just so beautiful because he's so he just you could see that he's just proudly himself, and he's got tons of followers, and I promise you he's not good looking, he's nothing special, you know what I mean? He just found his authenticity and he just like goes for it, like shamelessly. And so I think that when you start finding your rhythm, you will start seeing it, and it'll be more fun. You won't have to pretend anymore. You can just be you. Yeah.
I just love the story that you shared, that that lady being herself, combining poetry and food and everything in Antarctica, made you feel that, okay, what is my thing? So when people are authentic, they inspire you to be more like you. It's
100%.
like it's contagious. It's not like they're telling you, hey, you should be you. They're not being
Yeah.
preachy, they're just being themselves, and that
Yeah.
inspires you, that am I being myself, and if
Yeah.
not, why not? So
And
and
I just
yeah.
want to say that the
Yeah.
people in Antarctica, they were very wealthy and they were very happy. And if we're talking about what success, I was amazed. I mean, I was with a friend of mine. I said to him, there exists a different world. These people were genuinely happy, and of course, I'm not saying perfect, okay, like obviously, but for the most part. And I realized that it was because of they were so unique themselves, and they just owned it, they made a success of it, especially as artists and yeah, musicians and so on. Mm.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it up, because the Being's Eye channel, they often talk about it. And I think it is not stressed enough that
Mm.
when you are really being authentic, you actually do attract wealth and abundance very easily. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, that you don't have to pretend anymore. Like, you are freeing up that energy that you're spending in pretending into wealth building, and you
Exactly.
tend to attract people who like you for who you are. So like the example you gave about that guy, like he's not attractive conventionally, or he's doing weird stuff that doesn't seem normal, but to him that is him being himself. And that's
Yeah.
why there are followers who are following him for being himself, like they enjoy watching him being him. And
Yes. Yes.
this is the message the beings keep telling the beings I channel, like, just be you. You want abundance, just be you, because it will free up your energy, it will align you to your values, and you'll be doing things that you actually like and not feel like, oh, morning I have to wake up and do this thing, which most people in the job are feeling right now. People who are doing jobs, they're like, I don't want to go to a job because they're doing things they don't like. So being
Yeah,
authentic allows you to connect with those values that you have, that who am I? What
yeah,
am I? And
yeah.
then do things that allow you to be more of you.
Mm, yeah. And I just quickly want to say that, I think growing up, we're told as kids, be yourself, be yourself. I don't think we understand what that means, especially as a teenager. Be yourself. Oh, of
Because
course
we
I'm
are
myself.
also
Like, I mean, I
shamed.
can't get out of my skin, like I am myself. But it's not that, you're going to be you until you die. It's more about, again, it's when we take a bit of time out to meditate and to be still, and we ask ourselves, okay, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay, of today, for example, of everything that happened today, where did I feel good? What did I love? Well, I really enjoyed cooking. Like I mean, that's not my truth. I don't enjoy cooking. Okay, moving on. You see, it's so great. We're all different, right? But like, oh, today I loved cooking. I really enjoy cooking. Okay, well, what else do I like? And it doesn't mean that you need to go off and start your own business now doing this thing, but it's like every day, if you can do more and more of what you love, what makes you happy, you will find your way. And if you really want to take it, further, go, okay, great. Let's look at my entire life. What have I been great at? What do people say I'm good at? What do I really enjoy? And what would I love to do if money were no object? And we're not just talking business here. What would I want my life to be like if there was no limit? And all of these things combined are going to direct you, in the right way. But it does kind of start with like being still a little bit, and listening. And again, goes back to that inner work. It's like, what are you doing to even listen to yourself? What are you doing to find your authenticity? So, put some time aside to get serious about this because it's going to make the world of difference.
And not just that, I think when people are being authentic, they find themselves in that stillness. They
Yeah,
start innovating in ways
yeah.
that allow, like, they couldn't even imagine that they could be something out of this world, which adds
Mm,
to the excitement. It doesn't necessarily have to spill into making or doing business, but simply enjoying life as who you are and discovering more about you. Because, as you said, that knowing who you are, that has been the theme my last year, and I kind of found the answer, and I realized that there is no end to knowing who you are. Like, you can discover different layers after layers. You will think, oh, I am this, and you build an identity around it. But after some time, you'll discover more about who you are the more you go inside, and you're like, oh, I thought I was only this, but now it has expanded. Oh, I'm also that. And then
mm,
you do more digging, and then you discover, oh, I'm also that. And this
mm,
is how the knowing of who you are is like all your life. And the more
yeah.
you get to know, the more you're shocked that, oh, I'm infinite. There is no end to it. And every time the discovery leads to something absolutely crazy about yourself, which
Yeah,
is exhilarating. So again,
yeah.
I'll come back. I mean, I think we went a little bit off topic, but I enjoyed it. So what do you think, like, since I believe you interview channelers for your platform, what qualities do you believe makes a channeler successful, both spiritually and I think the spiritual part is something you already spoke about. So let's focus on what makes a channeler successful professionally in your
Yeah.
experience.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I do think everybody needs a website. Here I'm going to give a whole bunch of things. You can take a pen. I think that you should register your full name, like for you would be momitapol.com, wenusolsona.com, and make that your website because here you're promoting yourself. When you give yourself this really cool name, it's nice, but then, here the business is you. You can't outsource the channeling to somebody else. And so I would do that. Then I would have a website. Any of these platforms, there's so many platforms. It's very easy. You can give it a go yourself. I mean, if you really absolutely hate it, somebody could do it for you. Something very simple. And then you need to obviously have a good experience. This is very basic, but for example, if you give a 1 hour session, don't make it 55 minutes, or 58, make it 62 or 70 or something. And always try and over deliver. So whatever you promise, try and over deliver. Try and have good systems for admin. So there's many booking systems that you can use. If you really want to keep it simple, you can really just put your email address, get people to email you, but something that works for you, that doesn't take up too much space, so that you don't leave people hanging, right? It's obvious again, but like, I mean, good service to the client, not being late for a session, and also being prepared. So if you're going to do a Zoom, arrive at least 15 minutes before. Make sure you center yourself. Make sure you are logged in a few minutes before. Like, don't be rushing. Very, very often, in fact, even when I review now to this day, they're late. And it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? It's like you're late
But
to the
it leaves a
hospital,
bad
to
impression.
work. It's like, just come a couple of minutes earlier, be nice and centered and ready, and very as calm as you can for the session, because also they feel it. And then obviously a bit of an icebreaker at the beginning, no matter what kind of session you do, is always good. I suggest to record the session and to send the recording on Zoom as well. You can record on the cloud. It's very easy. You record it and it records. These days, to record the transcript is very important, I think, because when you have the recording of the video, the audio, and the transcript, I don't think you need to send the video if you don't feel comfortable, but the audio I would send to the client, and the transcript more than anything, because remember, these days the client gets the transcript and they can put it into Chat GPT and say, give me a summary of this, what did this person suggest, or whatever. So I think that's very valuable for the client to get the transcript and the audio. And I would encourage the channel, as a channel, I would encourage the client to re-listen to the audio, maybe like 3 months, 6 months later, because as you know, stuff comes up, and the client gets more value out of it. So if a client has one session, but then they re-listen and they get more value the second and the third time, then the whole session has now become more valuable. And then make sure you keep these email addresses, you keep the contacts of these clients, and and this is like up to you, whatever feels right for you, but do follow up with a client at some point. You know what I mean? If it's the new year, hey, a new year. If it's, the anniversary of their session or their birthday or whatever you want to do, because but obviously following up in a way that shows that you care about this person, not like trying to sell. And that's actually a theme throughout, is like, you got to remember that we're here to help people. We're not here to sell something to somebody. So the channeling session hopefully is helpful for this person. So think how else you can bring value to this person. And it could be another session, but it could be a course, it could be this. Even if you send them something for free, like, help people, and business will come to you. I used to run a company where we used to have the number of people that we helped and the money that we made. And I always used to check how many people have signed up. Never looked at the money. It just, I was thinking, how many people are like on the program? I want to help lots of people. And I remember this employee of mine kept looking. She was like, "Oh, man, look how much money that is." And I was like, "That's interesting. I'm not looking there." So focus on helping people, genuinely helping people, and then of course money will come, because they will tell other people. And the other thing I would say is that in this industry, a lot of the ways that people book channelers and practitioners is through word of mouth. And so try and leverage word of mouth, meaning go ahead and literally ask your clients and say, hey, would you mind sharing this with your friends? Or do you think some of your friends would benefit from a session like this? I would love it if you could tell them, and say it in a way that feels good for you, that you don't feel like you are pushing anything on anybody, and make it easy for your client to tell somebody else. So it's also easy for them. So it's kind of like a win-win-win, client, new client, and yourself. Nobody needs to lose here. Because word of mouth is how most people book practitioners. So also think creatively around word of mouth. I could keep going, but like, just I think general business, good business practice is important to keep, like even just the basics of arriving on time, making sure they're happy, and all that stuff, like, goes a very long way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I really appreciated how you broke it down. Like, I sometimes kind of take these things for granted because I do these things so naturally, maybe because I have a habit of doing these things since my corporate
Yeah.
background. But now that you mention it, I realize, oh, these are things maybe people are not doing. Like these things are basic. And I'm glad that you pointed out the basic, because what feels like basic is actually not basic. It actually leaves an impression on people.
Mm.
And I'm glad that you also brought up the saying with genuineness, like, hey, if you really liked it, and if you feel somebody else will benefit from it, do share my page or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you brought up the transcript. I think that is the only thing I'm not doing, so thanks for sharing that. I have taken a note of that.
Yeah.
Usually I share recordings, but I didn't think about transcript. And I personally use a lot of transcripts, but I was like, okay, I just skipped my mind. So
Mm.
that was a very helpful advice. So
Mm.
I'll move on to our next question. Um, have you observed any common transformational experiences that clients report after working with channelers from your side?
Yeah. So I obviously get it second, then I'm not the one doing the channeling, so they're not coming to you. So I've got a lot of stories from my channelers and my practitioners of their clients. And, it ranges from yeah, really all sorts. Sometimes people have something that's been blocked from a past life, or again ancestral or belief patterns that are just released, sometimes by revisiting a life, or just by hearing something or understanding something, or seeing things from a different point of view, like being able to understand that, oh my gosh, my mom did it because you know what, la 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 la. And so there's a lot of those like moments that almost in a split second people just like things get rearranged and realigned sort of energetically. So I can't think of like a specific story because again, I'm also not affected directly, but I can tell you that especially for people that have been trying a lot of the conventional methods, especially, yeah, a lot of therapy, and even when it comes to physical things, I would encourage people to try the energy healing methods, whichever one feels right for you, because physicality is what we see. It's a kind of the end of the energetic vibration. It starts as energy, da, 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 and then eventually becomes a physical thing, right? An ailment or a situation. But if you can go back and fix here what was wrong here, a lot of stuff here is going to be fixed. So instead of spending all your effort, and it's hard, and your time trying to fix this problem here, just take it a step back and work here. So just try, and try different things. Whether it's energy healing or channeling or Reiki or hypnotherapy or past life regression, quantum healing, and also, sometimes you got to try a couple of different practitioners, and some, you know what it's like. You might hear something 1,000 times, but this time it's like, oh my gosh, it just clicked somehow. Um, but yeah, because it's also not invasive. It's not something that's going to be on top of the trying to sort of fix the symptom. This is trying to fix the
Deep
cause.
work.
It's deep work, and yeah, it's kind of how it works. This is, yeah, well, I don't like to say this because everybody has different beliefs, but the reality is that it starts energetically and it finishes physically. So just go back, work on the energetic, and be open to it. Don't go, okay, let's see if these people can do something for me. It's like, okay, even if you don't believe fully in it, just put yourself in the mind state that you go, okay, for this hour, I'm going to drink the wine. You know what I mean? I'm going to believe everything that I'm hearing. I'm going to open myself up to all of this. That's kind of, as a client, that would be my main suggestion is if you're going to go into a session, if you're going to spend the however many dollars this is going to cost, do yourself a favor and be open, open-minded, open-hearted, and believe in it, or even like trick yourself to believe in it, and you'll see more results than if you go, guarding yourself.
Yeah, that is that I'm glad that you brought the energetic world in it. I remember a few days back, one of my clients was saying that I just need not just the energetic work, I also need to work on the physical. And that gave me an idea about how much people don't understand how the energy body is connected to the physical body, because they feel
Mm.
that, okay, The physical body has to be treated physically, the energy body has to be treated energetically, and the emotional things has to be treated emotionally. They don't see the connection that these things are connected. When you affect one, it also affects the other. In fact, my self-healing blueprint that I have, it only works on the emotions and the energy, because that is where, when the change happens there, it reflects in the body. They experience immediate healing immediately. Like they see the change. If they are pain, the pain disappears or reduces. So
Yeah.
it surprises me that how many of us don't understand that the real work actually begins in the energy world. If you can
Mm,
fix the problems there, half of your problems will change here. And I think it's also about the belief system. If you are like strongly held into no, the physical thing also has to be taken care of. I think if the mindset is like that, usually those people don't experience that kind of immense
yes.
transformation also when they go for energy work, because in their mind they are blocked. They are like, okay, energetically what will happen, only this much. So if they could open, like the way you said, that I don't know what's going to happen, let me be open and see how much changes, I think they would have
Mm,
benefited a lot more and seen
yeah.
what it can actually do.
100%.
Yeah. So um my last question would be, what's a one message you'd like to leave with your audience about their own spiritual path and purpose?
Mm. Well, I think if you start doing the work, the inner work, and you commit to it, even if it's a little bit, I am pretty sure you're going to see some result. And that's going to give you more fuel and more belief, right? And then you go, okay, well, that worked. Let's try this. And you will see that all of this theory, all of these things that we're talking about are actually true. They become manifestations. So trust yourself. I'm in this year of committing to my self-care, and because I'm on the path, I'm a believer, obviously, but I'm like going, how far can I take this? How much I'm kind of excited. I almost feel like it's a bit of a movie, that I'm living in. And but I have seen the results. I've the belief is not because I read it somewhere, it's because it happened to me. And so try and get yourself to the point where you see something happen in your world, and then start trusting it. And also, like, you don't need to, we're so influenced by what society says and shoulds and shouldn'ts, like, trust yourself a little more, like, it worked for you. If you're feeling something, like, just do it. Let me give you a very silly example. This morning, it was so funny. I was in the gym, I swim and I wash my hair, and I'm brushing my hair. One of the things I want to do this year is improve my hair. It's not as great as it might look. And so I was like, and as I was brushing my hair, I just got this feeling that this brush wasn't good for it, for my hair. And you know what? I've had this brush for, I don't even want to say, it's embarrassing. I probably had it for like 20 years. And I looked at it and I had another brush, and I just kind of, my intuition said to me, this brush is not good. It was very hard, and it said, throw it. And I literally walked to the dustbin, but I mean, I've had it for so long, I kind of love it, right? And I was like, oh no, so my head was like, but I've had it for so long, and but it feels good. And then I was like, no, throw it, And I was like, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna listen to myself, I'm gonna do it. Okay, so I threw it away. And then I started brushing with the other brush, and I realized this brush was so hard and this other brush was so much softer. And I thought, you know what? I've been wanting to get my hair better and I've been brushing this brush. What I'm saying is that even we come up to moments where we can listen to our hearts or we can listen to our head. And my heart was 100% saying, this is not a good brush for you. And it's the example. But my head thought, oh no, like, how am I going to throw this brush away? Right. And so trusting ourselves and listening to ourselves, and then we're gonna, as we see like proof of things working out, we go, okay, great, yes, it works. Okay, I can listen to myself. I don't have to listen to what I'm supposed to do or what even my head, because it rationalizes. And so, yeah, trusting, and then yeah, and then also don't beat yourself up about things if it doesn't work out. It's all a journey. We're
It's
learning,
about
and
figuring it out.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like,
have
I
fun,
think, yeah,
really, I guess.
most people, I think
Mhm.
they just like, no, it has to be perfect the first time.
Yeah,
So it just,
yeah,
if you just allowed yourself to just be whatever you are, whatever you want to do, even if it is not fitting with the societal
yeah,
norm, it might
yeah.
bring you joy. I mean, have you tried that kind of a thing? So
Yeah,
thank you so much, Venu. I wanted to share with the viewers, if you want to check out Venu's website, it is orykl.com. It's pronounced Oracle, but it's spelled that way, so I thought of mentioning the spelling. So folks, do check out Venu's website, and if you are into spirituality, I would definitely recommend signing up. So thank you so much, and I wish you a good day.